Welcome to the Generation Fit podcast. We're your co-hosts, Benji and Chris, and today we talked about a bunch of random stuff and how to bulk for Hardgainers.
Well, I went there and then they banned it within. I went there. I used to go there all the time actually, and then we got closed off probably. So I was a sophomore in college, just finished. So
Wait, you went to Ringwood? Where in Ringwood that they banned though? Like I've been there and walked around the state parks and stuff, but what did they ban there?
the cliff jumping spot where the mining hole was. So
Gotcha.
it got filled up with water, and kids were doing it, jumping off, including myself. You see me like a bunch of times doing backflips and stuff, and friends doing quadruple backflips because it was like one side was only like 20 something feet that we measured, and then the other side was about 35 feet. So that one was just definitely a little scarier in terms of how you land. So most people didn't do too much, too crazy stuff. But yeah, I haven't been back since like 2017, 2018. So it's been a long time.
People died there, right?
Oh, I think every single one. Every single one.
Every single. I thought you were gonna say like every single person died there.
Every single cliff jumping spot I had in the local area of New Jersey, somebody had probably died. Even the Pocono area. I went to school in the Poconos, and there was one near Dingman's Ferry. And for the people who do know what that is, basically there's a bunch of waterfalls that come down, and you're at the beautiful hiking trails. Poconos are full of trails and great natural wonders. So as you go through it, you see people or trails being cut off, or they purposely cut down the trees around it to block it off naturally, quote unquote. And they don't allow basically more so kids to jump down those things. But the other one, I do have a video of me, and I'm jumping down. I think we measured it at 45 feet. So it's basically, even if landing correctly, you still have to clench your cheeks and land like a pencil.
Yeah, see, that scares the shit out of me. I've never done that before. I've never been one to do that type of thing. Like, I do hikes. I love hiking, and I always want to challenge myself to do a harder and harder one. But to me, there's a difference between difficulty of the hike itself and then the challenge of not dying or not. So it's like I choose my difficulty on like, okay, this is a really difficult peak to summit. It's high up or something like that, but not, oh, if I let go of this thing, I just fall off and die. So like that's kind of my rule of thumb in terms of which hikes I'll choose.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't think any hikes that I'll ever go on will be like, oh, you're going to, like, I think there's always a chance of dying anywhere or anything you do in terms of natural adventures, but I don't think I'm going to do anything where it's like the risk is so high at the point where it's like one in, 10 or 20 people are actually dying because they take a route that's going to.
Well, I've never heard of it being that high, but there is higher ones.
Yeah. I mean, most of my clients has invited me to go to these places, and when we do, it's like I think we walk so much to the point where I don't find hikes unless they're at higher elevations, like crazy high elevations, especially like the ones in Colorado.
Like difficult.
Poconos. I lived in the Poconos, and we surmounted those without even thought. We actually did it hungover every single Sunday for the entire year.
There you go. That's the best way to like work the alcohol out of your system. It's like getting chased by a bear on a hike.
Yeah, we were doing that nonstop. We did that every Sunday, sophomore year, junior year of college, and then realized we probably shouldn't be doing that as much because there were kids dying because mostly because they wanted to do the jump spot.
Yeah.
They would do the whole trail, and there's a bunch of trails besides that spot. But of course, if you drive there, then you might as well go do it because it's a lot of fun and it's really cool. Girls taking the pictures around the waterfall area. And then all the guys are doing crazy flips and stuff. I would definitely not flip at Dingman's Ferry because that was scary as shit.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes me like upset a little bit is that every hike I do, I want it to be more exciting, see a better view. But every time I'm like, okay, well, let me look up a place that is like even crazier. It's always it almost correlates with a higher chance of death. Like if you look at statistics, 1 out of how many people and be like, yes, this one's very hard. You have to like tiptoe to the summit. So like it always gets scary in that regard. Like I wish I could say, like I've always said, oh, it would be awesome to climb Everest. It's like, all right, I did my first hike, next step Everest. And like people do it every day now, but there's no stopping. Like even like Mike Tyson did it without training because like you have these people who, you pay like these, I can't remember the name of them, but like the Tibet people. Not Sherpa people. Is Sherpa people? I think it's Sherpa people.
I have no idea.
So you pay these people and they like help you like acclimate at different base camps and stuff. And it's really cool. But like, let's say you did everything perfectly. Freaking avalanche comes and just wrecks you. Like there's nothing you could have done to prevent that other than watch out for the avalanche warnings, basically.
Yeah, I don't think I ever do that. I know a lot of people like to do the ones in California, and those are the ones that you need to enter a lotto and they do a drawing
Oh,
system.
yeah, and there's like permits and shit for some of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my clients from the Malonados had to, or that was her lifelong dream to do it. And then I think right during COVID, they were still allowing it because it was outside and, there's not much contact with people except when you pass by. So she got her bid there because I think people were scared also. So I think the bid was lower and she got picked. So her and her husband went there. I forgot exactly what it was. It's like Half Dome, I think it's called.
It sounds cool.
Yeah, no, it was really beautiful, the pictures that she took. So I think it's called Half Dome. So people who are going to correct me on here. But yeah, I don't think at any point, I don't think I'm going to do something to the point where it's like the risk is so high. And to be fair, it's like, I'm not going to really crap out either. Like we take like a 3-mile walk total every single day at a good, decent speed. So I just don't think walking and hiking, I know it's a little bit different because you have the terrain and everything, but it's still not like the hardest thing for, I guess, the person who's very active.
Yeah, unless you're speed running it like as a race. Exactly. I mean, I think when I was at the peak of my bulk and doing it, and I hadn't done like any walking or cardio since I played soccer years ago, that was hard for me because I just have to take break. Like, it's not like I couldn't do it and it was the hardest thing ever, but I would take like a minute or two break probably a few times up the trail. Whereas now, if I did it being leaner and also walking those few miles every single day, I think I'd be fine.
Oh yeah, I mean, going up a staircase when you're at your heaviest points, especially for a lifter, breathing heavy every single time. And it's because every step you take is just so much more weight,
Yeah.
so much more energy being expended. And also, yeah, you basically are probably doing less cardio if you're in those heavier phases, anyways. Besides just general walking,
Get up there.
but yeah, you're probably walking faster, a lot more when you're lighter. Even if you did count it for everything the same, you probably are moving more in general when you are lighter. Not only because you have less things to move, literally less weight to move overall. But nowadays, I'd rather have physical hobbies. So I'd rather for us, we're learning pickleball because it's like the big trend. And also, it's more so that my parents were big racket sport players. Never taught me a racket sport in my life, which was so unfair. Yeah, so unfair.
Messed up. You ever see the open bodybuilders that if they were having a podcast with us right now, like if we had a guest that was in the Mr. Olympia, he'd be like, yeah, so he's just like, he's out of breath from just like saying a few words. Like, it's crazy.
Well, yeah. Well, they don't. The thing is, they took it to the extreme where they don't do anything else besides the physical act of moving muscles basically for total mechanical tension. Whereas we obviously are more doing somewhat of the same thing, but definitely less to the extreme. Whereas,
we also don't weigh 300 pounds at our height of like all muscles, so it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like, to carry that around, like I just feel like even if they did everything properly per step, it's just so much more difficult.
Oh yeah, their efficiency of oxygen is so terrible because if they were to do VO2 max stuff or if they were to do anything in zone 2 cardio, it would basically just cost them more from building muscle.
Yeah.
Like basically it's like you need enough to live just by walking, and then after that, almost every other detail starts to take away from their potential to be the best bodybuilder of all time.
I think they should, like I was telling you this a few days ago, the NFL teams should put them on contract if they're like in the Super Bowl. So, or like just for the whole season. So it's like anytime they're on the 1 yard line, they just hand off the ball to the guy once. It'll be like all his cardio for the year, but like he'll get in the end zone. Like if you gave Hafthor Bjornsson the ball at the 1 yard line just once, like there's no way he's not getting into that. Like what are they gonna do to him? He's like 6'9", 1 million pounds.
I think it's the higher risk of injury because you don't take. You know how much damage you take in one tackle.
Yeah, you just gotta. Well, you just gotta not get tackled. You just gotta practice a little bit, taking some falls.
Yeah, I remember looking at a quick statistic, and it was just something along the lines of McCaffrey per game takes basically like 4 to 5 car crashes as a running back. So imagine a total tonnage of hits thrown at him. So not all the hits, just combine all the hits, and it's about the same amount as an average car crash 5 times in a game.
That's crazy. Well, yeah, I mean, if you took the average person and they get hit by an NFL linebacker, like they're like dying. You know what I mean? Like, so with these guys that take hits like that, it's almost like they've progressively overloaded to be able to like be in car crashes.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's tough as an athlete. Imagine football guys are already playing once a week at a high level. Like they're facing off only approximately once a week, sometimes a little shorter than that. So when they do get hit in practice, they still need to get hit. So you obviously go a little bit lighter, but it definitely needs to be enough to where they have to get hit to be able to withstand the hits in the game, even in season, which is honestly tough for any athlete, especially for football players or any contact sports.
Yeah, absolutely is. Did you see the new Eminem album that it just came out today? Well,
Uh,
the people listening to this, they'll hear it 2 weeks from now. But you probably didn't listen to rap music much growing up, right?
No, no, no.
Yeah, it's just kind of crazy, like culturally, because like the whole point of it is that it's like the death of Slim Shady. So like he's like trying to
Gotcha.
cancel himself. So like he's saying like crazier shit than he has for like the last 10 years, like how he did like 25 years ago,
Uh,
and like the whole internet's lost its mind within like the last 12 hours.
Hell
Like, it's
yeah.
actually crazy the stuff he said in there. Like something that applies to us, anyways, like as fitness podcasters, and I mean, I guess like all of society. He was talking about fat people, and he was saying like, you have people that they try to change how the whole world views them instead of trying to change themselves, which was like very poetic. Like like a bunch of other stuff baked into there too. But I was like, I heard that part and I was like, oh wow, that's very true.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just the stance where people take. What he was going against is exactly what the narrative is going against. So obviously, we're in this space of taking personal responsibility as best you can. Like, why didn't I, or I am the way I am because of my decisions. And right now, it's
Yeah.
being pushed the other side so far to the point where it's, in this case, it's I'm fat because somebody else, or because the world is against me, or because big pharma, big food, big whatever made all these things, and they do attribute to it. But he does it. That's why I think it's poetic too at that point, because it really comes down to, besides if you have a genetic issue, it really does come down to yourself at that point to stop yourself from eating more.
Yeah, I mean, you can only control what you can control. So even if every single thing was against you, it doesn't mean that you should just accept that as your fate.
Yeah, and also he's one of the greatest rappers of all time. I obviously don't listen to too much rap, being in a very Asian household, but
Imagine.
yeah, no, it's definitely classical, a lot of rock. And then I went a little against the grain, went to country, so I went a little softer.
That's great. Yeah, well, I mean, you'd say that it would be weird for an Asian to listen to rap, but Asians listen to country, so like sounds even weirder.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's because I play baseball in the sticks, and then everybody around me was listening to country music, and then at parties is when they actually had the rap and the hip hop and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then also my roommates were also from either the sticks of Pennsylvania or from the hillbilly areas of New Jersey. So it was just kind of inevitable that I was going to listen to country too, because that's all they listened to. And then I was kind of like the suburban city boy that kind of came in with a little EDM in the mix.
Oh yeah, I like it. Yeah, well, that's why I work out too.
Yeah, that's what I normally work out to or used to, and then now I listen to nothing, basically just silence or podcast, mostly podcast and other informational videos now.
People are gonna hear this and gonna be so confused when you say the hillbillies from New Jersey. They're gonna be like, "There's hillbillies from New Jersey." And it's like, yeah, actually, not most of the people in the state, because we live in the densest area, but most of the state is actually very different in terms of how you would think it looks, and the people that are living in those areas.
Yeah, if you come to visit New Jersey, it does get a bad stigma. So I would say this: you see the perception of New Jersey as the Italian mafia, the Jersey Shore, pump fists in the air, gym tan laundry. Whereas if you actually, Jersey's probably split up best by 4 sections. So just think of it as quadrants.
Okay.
Basically,
I'm
like
curious to hear. Explain this.
basically you have like the northeast, northwest,
Yeah.
southeast, southwest, right?
I think that's fair.
Right, and then you go. So
Yeah.
if you start where we are, we're technically like in the middle, honestly, but we can kind of be segregated into the northeast.
I think so. Yeah.
And basically, it's just densely populated city, suburbia, basically modern life. Basically, we're almost just the modern New Jerseyan. Like
yeah, anything you see on social media about what it's like to live somewhere near here. I mean, it's basically like an extension of, like a smaller extension of New York City in a way.
yeah, exactly. A small extension. Like it was definitely a lot more Italians, Jewish people. But the whole point is that it's a big melting pot, especially around here.
Yes.
Then you go very far northwest, and that's where all the farmlands,
That's where my kind is.
Hence why that's why it's called the Garden State, because there's literally a lot of land there they can produce crops in the state of New Jersey and just have nice gardens. So, and then you go southwest, and those people think that they're Philly people.
Yeah, they're all fans of the Eagles, the whatever the hell the other teams are. That I can't
Yeah,
remember off the
Phillies.
top of my- Oh yeah, the Phillies.
Yeah,
I just
Flyers.
offended like all Philadelphia. They're like the most angry fans. So.
Oh, they are. We're gonna die at the probably tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, so southwest is all Philly people. So those are the wannabe Philly people, even though they live in New Jersey.
Damn, calling them out.
And then why live in our state if you're gonna be a Philly fan? And then. I mean, I'm not even into sports. It's just I went to school in Pennsylvania, and all of them from Philly, and they or close to Philly or southwest New Jersey, and they would still affiliate with themselves with Philly. And then you go southeast, and that's the beach people. Usually the very calm people, also usually very well off, so they're a lot slower, calmer. Definitely.
Well off, usually more conservative.
Oh,
Unless
definitely.
You're at Asbury
Definitely.
Park.
I mean, basically, it's like if Asbury Park is technically, as we're describing this quadrant, it's so far, like it's pretty much dead center of New Jersey if you really think about it.
Yeah.
It's like more in the centerpiece.
It's like the hybrid.
Yeah, hybrid, and then you go straight down, and it's just like red, running red all the way down.
Yeah.
And it really is just like exemplifies people who have basically retired or have just had really good careers, and now they're settling down with families. Like obviously, different towns have different things. Like you have the Belmars, and all that kind of stuff. Point Pleasant, but realistically speaking, that's where all the beach people are, and usually they are a lot nicer, except for the ones near the party places.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, so if we were to summarize New Jersey, or I don't know if we could summarize it, but we started off with like, okay, it gets a bad rap, and like it does, or at least like it's very unrepresentative of the state itself, what most people see. But we also can't say that New Jersey is our favorite state of all time. We wouldn't be able to say that. It's just like there's a lot of things that we do enjoy here that we do like. It's where we grew up. But at the same time, there's a lot of things we don't like about it too.
Oh yeah, you can. I mean, I'm sure you can say that about any state. Anybody who actually lives there. When you go to visit, if you come from another state and come into New Jersey, you can get the experience of everything you want. Meaning, if you stay on the northeast side, you can get the best food. Right, you go towards the city areas, like near the water. So you go Hoboken, Weehawken. You get all the best food there, especially the Italian food, pastries, bakeries, all that kind of stuff. Then you go,
food. Yeah.
Oh, it's a big food area because of the immigration of Ellis Island. And then you go down south. You want to go to the beaches in the middle of summertime? You can go anytime you want. Yeah, you have to pay for it. Everything definitely is paid for in New Jersey. Meaning you have to pay for parking, going on the beaches for the most part.
It's rigged. It's actually rigged.
It definitely is rigged.
If the founding fathers saw this, they would kill everyone that runs the state.
Yeah, easily. It would be a complete mass overturn. But you're able to get everything is what I'm trying to get at. So as much as there's pros and cons. I'm not saying I hate New Jersey, just there are definitely pros and cons. So if you do visit New Jersey, just know that you can get literally everything in terms of shopping. Like the Northeast side has the American Dream Mall, if you want to go shopping like crazy. It has, New York Giants go there, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Then you go down south, you get all the beaches. You go to the little east of that, then you go towards the Philly area and definitely more of the farmlands. Yeah. In general, like the whole west side, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I was always jealous of the people that lived down the shore at the beach, like or during the summer, like the kids that were in basically a lot of people have two houses. They'll have their house up here in the more like the area that's more dense, closer to New York City, and then they'll have their beach house also that they'll go live in for all of the summertime. So I was always a little bit jealous of that. Like, oh man, that's so cool. I'd go there for maybe a half week or a week if I got to stay with a friend. And I was like, oh, you get to stay here all year, like, or all summer? That's so cool.
Oh yeah, just in perspective for people in the other states, a house now, a beach house, probably I would say 5-6 blocks away, and just a normal 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, maybe 1.5 bathroom, is worth at least 1.3 million. I'd say it's all done up, everything works, everything's fine, inspected. So just for perspective, it is expensive. It is very expensive to live in New Jersey.
It is, yeah. Like, and that's the whole pros and cons thing too, because like obviously the average salary is going to be a little bit higher, but then if you do the ratios though, it still isn't necessarily like, for example, if you worked online, like it definitely wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically like you're doing this because you either have family here or basically something around you socially, or you grew up here. It really comes back to, because I don't think most people would actually stay here unless they're just like homebodies that just enjoy it. Like, they just don't want to know anything else. They just want to stay home.
I think the biggest thing, like when I travel down south, that I like better about there than here, like you could talk all about the politics that you want, and like I would probably, if you made the differences there, I would agree. But it's more just the people and like how they act. So like instead of it going into like this large detail thing, I'll just give you like 2 examples, almost the contrast. So like one is, if you're walking just down the street somewhere random in, like, let's say I went to South Carolina a lot, people, every single person will stop and say hello, hey, how you doing? And a lot of times just random conversations will be spurred with random people, and it'll be great. It'll be awesome, and you made like a new friend out of nowhere. But then if you're walking down the street in New Jersey, I go on a walk every day. I'll say hi to everyone that walks by me, and they're like, like they don't even know how to say hello back. They just like spaz out. And it's like they're treating me like I'm a black dude in the 60s, like trying to go to the other side of the street. And I'm like, man, what's going on here? Like, people are just less friendly. It doesn't mean everyone's an asshole here. just means a lot of people are.
Yeah, I also think the perception of time is different. Like, I think since we are around a lot of really realistically a lot of white collar work and a lot of people
Definitely.
who are in that line of work that their perception of time is definitely different. Down there, a breakfast took me an hour and a half for just basic eggs, bacon, hash browns, coffee.
Yeah.
Took them an hour and a half to get out. Whereas I probably can get that done in less than 15 minutes if I go to a local diner right around or a local restaurant for people who don't have diners.
Yeah, those people, if there's not a car if they're in the middle of nowhere, there's not a car in sight, but there's a red light, they'll wait for the light to turn.
Yeah.
To walk across the street. That's like basically sums it up.
Oh man, that is kind of crazy to think about.
But where have you traveled in the? Well, I know you've obviously gone all over, but like in this country, like have you gone down south at all, or?
Yeah. For mostly for baseball. So I don't.
Okay.
My family's not the biggest national travelers. We only did it because either I had a baseball obligation or James had a martial arts obligation. My dad grew up down in the Southern Belt, so he was the one that moved around a lot from Texas, Arizona, California, because of his dad's job. So he had a lot of swinging back and forth from states, and basically imagine changing homes every year or two, if that,
Yeah.
for all your childhood. So he basically once he got a job in the city, he was like, all right, I'm going to ground myself around these parts. So like Long Island was where we first started, moved to New Jersey. But I visited very specific parts of the southern states. So it wasn't like a drive-through stop here, hotel or Airbnb. It was like Augusta, Georgia?
Yeah.
So like I went
for the
to
tournaments, right?
yeah, whatever it might be. So Showcase, College, Augusta, Georgia. Carolina I did a little bit more. I went like basically like Charlottesville.
Charlottesville, North Carolina, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, North Carolina.
Well, I know there's Charlotte.
Charlotte, North Carolina.
So it's Charlottesville, Virginia, I think.
Yeah, Virginia.
Yeah.
So Charlotte, North Carolina, Virginia, Arlington, Virginia. Like, basically, I went to different points, but it's also
Arlington's nice. Arlington's cool.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
liked Arlington. Basically, I went to a lot of these places where it was just that one piece. So I can't be like, oh, this entire state's trash. But
Yeah.
to be fair, it's like besides, Carolina I did more of because my buddy lives down there. So I've driven down there, hung out more there. But otherwise, it's like in terms of states I visited just for like a small amount of time in a very specified area. It's like Tempe, Arizona, Augusta, Georgia. I can't even tell you. It's like Arlington, Virginia, Florida, like Tampa, Florida. But realistically, it's like that southern belt.
Yeah.
It's like I've only been at very pinpoint places, so
Gotcha.
I can't really give like a full like, oh, this is what the South feels like. They
Yeah.
just
Eventually,
look
just
at me
want to drive through everywhere. Like do work online and then just drive through the entire state or like every state in the country basically and just experience everything. Like I want to do that with. I mean, I have like OCD and a travel bug, so I want to travel to every single place and meet every single person in the entire world. All the gen fitters out there. I want to meet all of them. But yeah, basically that's kind of how I feel about that. Whereas I know a lot of people from New Jersey would probably prefer to just sit on their couch and watch Netflix and not travel to anywhere.
We also have everything here. We literally have everything here. Beach, probably like an hour or two from where you live. You have the city life, also an hour or two
Yeah.
from where you live. You can go out into the farmland and like the wineries and stuff like that. Also an hour or two away
Yeah.
from anywhere. And then you want to go to Philly or Boston. That's like 2 hours at most for most, depending on where you are in New Jersey.
Yeah.
But you're basically at the center point, and you have almost any like topography that you want to be around, kind of.
Yeah, Philadelphia is the only nearby city that I don't hate going to.
Philly?
It's the only one I don't hate going to.
Oh man, that's the one where I see people pissing on the streets, like everything hanging out all the
Really?
time. Yeah, it's different parts of Philly are good or bad.
Where are you going in Philadelphia? Like,
If you go towards like the UPenn side, so it's like they're all separated by quadrants.
yeah, I only know like basically the only areas I've ever hung around are like basically from the Rocky Steps to the Independence Hall.
Yeah, well, that's like the best place you can hang.
Yeah,
out.
but it's a large area, so like I just wouldn't go anywhere else.
Yeah, so you go to East Philly or something where all our conventions were at,
Yeah.
at the big hotels for school. Everybody's all dressed up. I used to do athletic training and sports medicine, so it was either business clothes or khakis. So then we'd step out, and then funny little tidbit, yeah. So my preceptor or mentor at the time took a step out, and then somebody was pissing on his shoes right next to him. So it was
dude, really?
they were just like 10 guys on heroin, and then they were,
That's
just, like,
crazy.
they were just taking a leak right outside the hotel door.
That's the worst. I mean, well, what I've noticed, at least in the main area of Philadelphia, compared to me going to the main area of New York City, is that their homeless people are nicer. Like, I like their homeless people a lot more. Like, if I was
Yeah.
walking by a homeless person in New York City, and one in Philadelphia, I'd be much more likely to buy like a homeless guy a hot dog in Philadelphia because he's usually nicer.
Yeah, to be fair, there's obviously a homeless issue there, but regardless, every time I've been to any major city, that's an issue. So I just think of it as I just kind of just keep my head down, just kind of keep going, and then obviously if somebody's like in dire need, I'll just like give them like a couple of bucks or something like that, or buy some food for them. But otherwise, it's any city you go to, every city I've been to has been like that. At least the major cities, like
the major ones, definitely.
Not
I make friends with everyone. Like I just like talk, like I don't know, like I talk to anything, like not even anyone, and just like anything. You know what I mean? Like I'll talk to a wall. So if someone's like like missing arm, like laying like half dead on the side of the street, and they're like, "Hey man, what's up?" I'm like I'm gonna be like, gonna talk to them. I'm gonna see what's up, you know?
Yeah, New York City is definitely different on that one. People are definitely head down, bumping into you, shoving you out of the way on purpose. You do have to make an effort to talk to other people. On the streets.
And they have to talk to you back, which usually they won't. Like usually they'll be like, "Fuck you, dude." Like if you're like, "Hey man," like if you walked up to a random guy in New York City, you're like, "What's up, bro?" They'd be like, "Fuck you," you know? Like,
oh yeah.
Anyone who comes from like any southern city and comes up here, they'd be like shocked. Like if they were in New York City, they'd be like a deer in headlights.
Oh yeah, it's huge difference. Absolutely huge difference. You have to adapt to it. It would be everybody talks fast, we talk fast. So imagine everybody talks fast, they move fast. So if you go too slow, drive too slow, and then you don't get right to the point of what you need, if you're asking for a service, you're done for. You're basically like, all right, well, we go step to the side and then to get the next customer. It happens every single time, especially at the delis.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say at a deli, someone would be like, "All right, what number do you want?" Next. It's like, I'm trying to just next. Get to the back of the line.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the topic of the day. What is the topic of the day?
The Skinny Man's Guide to Eating.
Oh, there we go. All right, Chris is the topic, man. For all you guys listening at home, Chris is the man behind this show. All right.
Yeah, so I personally was not in this camp, but have had many people that I've worked with be on this side of the spectrum, and people that are listening that are on the opposite side that seemingly can't lose weight probably can't even comprehend how this is even a problem because they probably just enjoy eating and eating a lot. So to set the scene here, a lot of people that aren't able to put on weight and are also skinny tends to be a couple things. So one of them being that they think that they're eating a lot, but they're truly not. Then they also believe genetically or in their heads that they can't put on weight. And to be fair, it's like, yes, if I lived 30, 35 years of my life and was unable to surpass, 120 pounds, 130 pounds, you would think that that life was against you, right? Your mom and dad's genetics just did not pass down through you, that you cannot put on weight. So I think you have the physiological thing happening, whereas you just don't eat enough. You don't eat enough. You think you do. And then on a psychological level, you're just like, I can't put on weight. I can't put on weight. And you put that in your head. So those are probably the two biggest barriers. And then realistically speaking, you probably just don't eat enough. And then when you do think you do, you probably need help getting in more calories, in which seems impossible because you probably are feeling full a lot of the times throughout the day.
Yeah, I think all of that. Well, okay, so a little bit of background about me is that I do fit that archetype 100%. Like I started my lifting journey, I was 130 pounds, skin and bones. Like I was made fun of for not being tiny, essentially, for my height. I was a very lanky person. So I would say that all those things are absolutely true for me. When I first started, I thought that, so put it this way. I didn't ever make a conscious effort for a long period of time to try and build muscle, but I just thought that's like the way things were, that it was my genetics, right? So I saw other kids that also played soccer that had more muscle on their frame, and I thought, oh, that's just genetics. They chose the right parents, and that's it, right? I thought that I was eating a lot because if I was playing video games, I'd eat 2 giant sleeves of Ritz crackers, and like that would be what I ate for the day. I'd be like, oh yeah, like this is lots of carbs, so like it must be a lot of food. It feels like a lot, therefore I'm eating a lot of food. But as soon as I started to make the conscious effort towards gaining weight, the big things that I changed right away, and we'll talk about throughout this podcast probably, is I obviously started eating more, and I had to track everything to make sure I was eating more, because what I thought was a lot was not. And then I think the other thing was, because I lived a lot more active lifestyle, it's obviously going to be harder to gain weight. So I needed to eat even more on top of that and rigorously track in the beginning, not knowing anything, to kind of supersede how active I was living because I was a soccer player.
Yeah. So you kind of have 2 archetypes here. So you have the first one where you're the skinny guy working behind a desk on average, and you think you eat a lot, but you truly don't. And then you have the other side of the spectrum where you are skinny and you are very active. You enjoy playing basketball on the weekends. You're the weekend warrior. You enjoy doing things outside and on your free time, definitely moving a lot. So you have two very kind of separated people. Basically, the archetype is the same, that you're just skinny. And the first thing I would say is, just if you start tracking, you'll start to understand how much you're actually eating, because most of you in this camp probably think that you are eating a lot.
Yes.
And realistically speaking, you're probably skipping breakfast, which is you're already down a meal. Then you think you're hungry, but you're eating like a small snack for lunch. And then come snack/dinner time. And then that's where you're like, oh, I'm going to have about a pound of food total. But even if you were to do meat, vegetables, carbs of any sort, yeah, maybe you get like 1,000 calories. But if you really break that down, that's like no more than what, 2,000 calories for a grown male, which is probably not enough for you. Because basically what you should probably do is multiply your body weight. And if you multiply it by a bulking number, which is about 18, that's probably like the target calories you should be eating. And I guarantee you, it's not around 2,000 calories. It's probably around 25 to like 3,000.
Yeah, I think everything you're saying is accurate. It was definitely accurate for me. And then at an even more extreme example, I have a client that's like 6 feet tall, and he started off weighing 115 pounds with me. Okay, so like very lanky. Like he looked like the dude Christian Bale played in that movie. What
Machinist.
was it? The Machinist, yeah. And as soon as I had him start tracking, because he was never aware of his food before, I saw that he was eating almost nothing. It was like 1,200 calories a day. And obviously that's nothing for how tall he was and, how much he should be eating to put on muscle. So I asked him, I was like, what do you think about what you're eating? Like, do you think this is, are you trying to put on weight eating this? And he's like, yeah, I just, I can't gain weight eating this. And I mean, to our brains, that sounds crazy, but that's kind of the average mindset or, what these people know that are trying to put on weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most of the time, it's you gotta understand, you probably don't have the habits to be able to eat a lot, and also the stomach itself is a muscle, so you do need to learn to expand it and get a little uncomfortable trying to build it up. So
Yeah.
the first big trick for you guys would be to, besides tracking, would be to liquefy some of your calories or drink your calories. A lot of the times you think that you have to eat a crazy amount of food, when realistically you can easily make or liquefy things to really, really get in the calories and also help you digest faster. So easy shakes will make this super easy. So you can do whey protein, liquid of your choice, like whole milk would be the most dense. So protein, and then you can throw in the other things that are very calorie dense, nut butters, fruits, bananas, and you can make any kind of shake you want. And it's also not so dense going down. It might feel thick, actually,
Yeah.
the shake, but in terms of you drinking it,
Digest it quickly.
you digest it a lot quicker because everything is blended together. It's quote unquote pre-digested. Realistically speaking, is you don't have to chew and then swallow. It's just liquefied, drink it. And yes, it'll be filling, especially the people that are skinny, but you'll eventually build the stomach to start building from there, and also load like 1,000 calories at one time.
Yeah. Well, usually we would recommend people to eat like real whole foods, like not liquid calories. But for people that are hard gainers, like I totally agree. When I first started, I learned the same strategy. I was like, okay, I have to make a shake. So I think the first thing I did is I put, a cup and a half, 2 cups of whole milk in there. I put a cup of rolled oats in there, a big thing, maybe 1 or 2 giant scoops of peanut butter, and, a little bit of honey and fruit on top of that. And maybe some other ingredients as well. But like that was nearly 1,000 calories right there.
Yeah, the goal is you want the...
Oh, and protein powder, obviously.
Yeah. The goal is to get the least amount of physical volume for the most amount of calories. So easy ones are avocados, any sort of nuts, nut butters, oils.
Yeah.
Basically everything fat dense. Because if you've ever seen a scoop of peanut butter or a serving of peanut butter, it's only 2 tablespoons, about the size of 2 ping pong balls. And I don't know about you, but when I first learned the serving size of peanut butter, I was actually disappointed because...
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because I actually was the guy that got the Jif peanut butter on a butter knife, scooped it all out from the bottom, and then like just spread it on my white Wonder Bread like crazy. And you think that was the only one I do? I do 2 of those. So that's probably like 5 tablespoons, and I'd still be hungry afterwards. So, that's just on my end because I was the fat guy. But to be fair, that's right. If you do 4 of those, that's like 200, 400, 600, and then plus the bread, that's like 800 calories on one peanut butter sandwich.
It's almost literally what I did when I was trying to bulk because I did have problems, right? So it's like it perfectly leads into that because, well, yeah, so there's liquid calories, and then I guess it kind of rolls into another one as well, but and we could classify it. But what I would do when I was struggling to gain weight and I need a little bit more calories when I didn't hit my goal because I was already tracking, my go-to at the end of the day would be to take saltine crackers and just plaster a bunch of peanut butter on there, and I'd have like 10 to 15 of those every single night. And I felt like, I can't say that I like felt amazing doing that, but I also didn't feel horrible because obviously I was going for, better peanut butter options, not like the the ones with like crazy ingredients and oils in there and stuff like that. So it did help me put on weight when I struggled to initially put on weight.
Yeah, so basically it's tip 1 is liquefy your calories. So make your shakes, make things that are super easy to drink and also have good amounts of protein. Step 2 would be you're trying to find the foods that just carry the most amount of calories with the least amount of volume, like size, actual size. And then tip 3 would be to combine, it kind of goes with number 2, but basically you want to combine very easy digesting carbs into your meals with obviously your meals. So he did it perfectly. So saltine crackers, nut butters, super easy. You can eat a bunch of them. Those crackers aren't necessarily the most calorie dense, but you can eat a crap ton of those and just keep going and pile on the calories. Because at the end of the day, calories do matter the most, right? We definitely will talk about hitting the protein targets in another podcast, but you got to make sure you do hit the calories. So if you're always under by 500 to 1,000, or you really just don't eat enough, combining easy digestible carbs and just loading up on them make it super easy for you to digest the food that you're eating, because that's already a problem because you're not used to eating a lot of food. And then when you do combine it, it digests faster. So for me, I usually just add white rice, noodles. I like the starches a lot, and that's what helps me put on muscle or put on weight as time goes on. But for a lot of you, I mean, rice, noodles, potatoes might be more dense. So you can easily find things that are pretty easy to eat. It might be crackers, might be chips. Find healthier chips that are easy. I mean, to be fair, a whole bag of regular potato chips. I like the Cape Cod ones. I mean, Lay's is great, but the ingredients aren't so. So I like Cape Cod or the new Siete chips, and I can eat an entire bag without even thinking about it.
Yeah, ever since you introduced me to the Siete chips, I've been like destroying those. Like I could have a whole bag, like you just said. So I think the best bulking foods for me have been, so in terms of if you're combining foods itself and like the shakes, I would say the best bulking foods have been shakes for me, like massive monster shakes that make me blow my brains out, peanut butter crackers, and probably chips as well. I think those would be like the big 3 for me that have helped.
Yeah, we're trying to keep this more clean, so it's not like you can't eat whole sleeves of Oreos or a bunch of that kind of stuff.
You definitely can.
Yeah, you definitely can. It just, you probably won't feel as great. So this is kind of like a combination of feeling good, also eating well for the most part. So yes, if you're able to tolerate a whole sleeve of Oreos after getting your protein target in and hit your calories from Oreos, like by all means, we just don't recommend that.
Yeah, well, I can give my experience a little bit with that. And I think it does lead into another point as well, is that not every single bit of your food has to be 100% clean. And that's with all diets, whether you're cutting or bulking, but you definitely have more leeway with bulking, especially when you're struggling no matter, like, for example, if you always feel full because you're eating super clean quality foods, well, then you're probably going to have to eat things that are of less quality that don't keep you full so that you could keep gaining weight. And I know there's people that are going to say, oh, why don't you just do this or that? But for most people, they're not going to be as detail oriented. So something like that could work if, okay, let's say they're eating around maintenance and they're like, I'm so full, I don't know what to do, but I could eat 6 Reese's right now. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to tell them absolutely don't do that if their number one goal right now is to gain weight. And if they don't do that thing, they won't gain weight. But my experience with it was both positive and negative in the sense that I was happy that I was able to start gaining a lot more weight, but I just felt horrible. My skin wasn't very good. My sleep was worse. Just kind of everything was off. And I was at a point where I was having like 10 to 12 Reese's peanut butter cups a day. My girlfriend's mom bought me like this giant thing of like 280 Reese's. And it was like during my bulk. Luckily, it was during my bulk. Imagine if it was during my cut, that would be bad. But I ate like 10 a day. And I think I went through that entire thing in like a month.
Oh, yeah. Well, luckily, there's better alternatives now that I've basically been trying to find an experiment so I can tell my clients and you guys what feels great for me in terms of the ingredients, in terms of calories, in terms of taste.
Yeah.
Right. So basically alternatives to the conventional candies, ice creams, whatever it might be, just a lower calorie version or a healthier version. Doesn't really matter if it's less calorically dense. But I think my personal ones that have helped with me and my clients would also be fattier cuts of meat protein. So
Definitely.
this is where we touch our protein stuff too. You got to realize most people think it's just the chicken breast. Was it like filet mignon, like the steaks, the
Yeah.
very very lean kinds of meat, and it's completely debunked. Okay, at this point, it's more where the chickens and where the cows, what they're eating, how they were treated, are matter way more. So in terms of longevity and health, so you can scratch that stigma right now. If you're going to eat those lean or protein sources and you're trying to put on weight, get the ribeye. Get the fattiest cuts you possibly can. The ribeyes, the briskets for the red meat, the strip steaks, you name it, ribs. Like those are the ones that are so calorie dense, and you're able to get. You don't have to eat that much for it.
Yeah.
Like you ever eat ribs and you just can't stop eating them? It's like, yeah, well, no kidding. You probably could eat an entire rack of ribs, and it's really not that much meat if you really think about it. But the whole point is that entire rack of ribs cooked in oil and battered in sauce, at least like one full rack average, probably like at least 1,500 calories.
100%. Yeah, if you're trying to go for the utmost quality, that is still very high quality. Like that's the point. Is like you said, it's like how the meat is treated, how it's raised, what they're eating, and whatnot. And everyone thinks you just need to have chicken breasts and eat that exact type of thing if you're trying to bulk or cut. But like it's really not the case. Like if you are trying to bulk and you have the fattiest cuts of meat that taste good and are high quality, and you put high quality oils on top of that as well, it's going to make it 10 times easier for you to bulk, and you're still not going to be eating junk food in order to achieve it. So I think it's like a great strategy.
Yeah, and realistically speaking, at the holistic level here, I know this is for the skinny guys trying to put on mass, but I want to give you perspective. The kind of like the default should be that you're eating a protein source, vegetable source, fiber source, and a carb source most likely, right? And on a bulking or a cut, it kind of looks almost identical, just on a plate. Just imagine the natural plate is just lean protein, probably 2 servings for most guys.
Yep.
A fiber source or 2, so broccoli, asparagus, you get the idea. And then let's say in this case potatoes, so like 2 potatoes, right? The difference would be when you're trying to put on mass would just be that you can swap out. You can just swap out that lean piece of meat for a fatty piece of meat to get the same amount of protein. And then if you're dieting on the other end, you're just also getting the leanest probably piece of meat you possibly can, and then taking away some carbs. And realistically speaking, think about it this way: 80-20 percentage lean fatness of ground beef going into the 99-1. That's like a 200 calorie difference just from fat.
Just from fat.
And it's the same volume of food because it's still 1 pound of meat, right? The entire thing is 1 pound of meat. Obviously, the composition of the meat is different, but it's still 1 pound of meat in your hands that you're about to cook. So imagine 99.1, I think it's like 120 calories. I can't think on the top of my head. I haven't had 99.1. I don't think it's even possible grass-fed.
Grass-fed probably not. Yeah, but still, they have it for...
Conventional, yeah. But 80-20 is like 290, 300 calories. So put in perspective, that's 180 calories per serving worth of ground beef. So in this case, you can easily get the fattier cuts of meat going into your diet.
Yeah, and it works whether it's beef, chicken, or seafood. Well, at least something like salmon, for example, you go from wild caught to farm caught. You go from the leaner cuts of beef to the fatter cuts of beef. Same thing with chicken. And the only difference is you eat one of them more times when you're bulking and one of them more often when you're cutting. And it makes it really easy. You just find like a source or 2 of each that you like, that you could bulk on and that you could cut on. And if you do that, I mean, there's not any guesswork to do.
Yeah, and when you cook these meats, just add oil. Just add a lot more oil than you think. So when you're dieting, spray oils are great. Now, on the other end, you just add in like half a stick of butter. And you're like, oh, I'm going to die. It's like, no, okay, you don't want to do half a butter, fine. Then do like avocado, olive oil, macadamia nut oil. I don't care. Something with lots of monounsaturated fats, and then just load up on it. Actually drench the entire pan full of oil and cook in it.
Yeah. And you can also do condiments too, and like different like barbecue sauce and stuff. Like you do different sauces. Like so after you've cooked in the oil already, if you're like, okay, I have these this fatter cut of meat here, I'd love a good barbecue sauce. It's like there's tons of different options that are healthier and less healthy, but overall, it's like it's a great way to make it go down a little bit easier. Obviously, not have it be dry, and it just tastes really, really good. And because it's sweeter, it'll also prompt more hunger in the long run as well, as opposed to making you feel completely full. So it's a great way to get more calories in. Like it's definitely what worked for me. Something that worked for me.
Yeah. So if, to bring it all together, if you're the kind of person that cannot put on any weight, right? Step one would just be getting liquid calories as best you can. So we just mentioned here the olive or the oil trick. You can also make a bunch of shakes. Definitely put anything that's super dense in those shakes. And that would be nut butters, oils, protein powders, anything that's very easily digestible. Also, that's super calorically dense. Avocados, anything fat based. Yeah. Then step two is making sure that you are eating for volume, less volume for more calories. So you same thing, nuts, avocados, things that you can just eat lots and lots of, crackers that you can just load up on calories. And then for three, you want to make sure that you are, was it eating?
I mean, we had a lot. We just did a lot, so I'm trying to think of the order. But I know one of them was obviously the fatter cuts of meat.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, so the fatter cuts of meat, because it just holds a lot of calories for the same amount of weight.
Yeah.
So everything goes in tangent with each other. Just know
they really do. Yeah.
But just know that we are specifically talking about getting fatter cuts of meat, because I know there's a stigma for it for health reasons, but realistically speaking, that's more on the how the meats are treated.
Yeah, it's how the meats are treated. It's also like all the studies on meat in general. We could go into that a little bit, but it's more or less like, okay, these people, basically the findings are these people are more likely to die earlier because they eat red meat, and that's not true. That's the extrapolation of the data, but really, if you followed the people's lifestyles, they're also like 100 pounds overweight. They're also more likely to smoke. They're also more likely to consume other bad things as well, and probably not have the highest quality meats that you could be getting instead. So it's all these things combined that make the extrapolation untrue. It just so happens that for whatever reason that it is that's what they decided to conclude on these studies.
Mm-hmm. He's absolutely right. And the fourth one would be to add carbs, easy digesting carbs into your meals, because it will elicit hunger.
Yeah, that was the other one.
Yeah, it's basically elicits hunger. It expedites the digestion process. So it makes this whole process a lot easier. A pro tip here would actually be to eat like one chip, one of your favorite chips, just take it one out of the bag, put it on your tongue, eat it, and then just wait 10 minutes, and your body's gonna be basically bubbling for more.
Yeah.
So that was our pro tip for a lot of our skinny guys. But the whole point is that, yes, easy digesting, you can eat a lot of it, and then it also just makes you want to eat more.
Yes.
So
then oils and condiments, kind of, we'll put that one together. That's another tip. And then the other one is essentially being able to eat some foods that aren't necessarily the highest quality, just having more lenience to do so. And then another one, it's just kind of like an extra tip that goes along with exactly what you said, which is just, it's kind of combines liquid calories, and something that's just easy to get a lot of is fruit juices if you're getting a high quality one. I'm not saying to abuse this, but if you just use it as a way to get some extra calories in and to prompt hunger because it's so sweet, that would be a great option. So I know like Stan Efferding like talks a lot about the just having a glass of orange juice to spur hunger. And, that's something that 100% works. Like, I know a lot of people, they work out, and right after they lift, they're not hungry. And I think I'm pretty sure it was Stan that said this too. After you work out, you're not hungry, have like a glass of orange juice, you shower and everything like that. And 45 minutes later, it's like you're starving, like you're ready to devour something. So it's a great little like tip as well. I don't know if you've ever used that one, but it works for me a lot.
I'm so robotic with my life. So my hunger cues and signals are all off, basically, because I just live so segmented.
Or they're so on. Everyone else's is so off. Really, if you think about it.
I guess so. Yeah. Like, if I miss a meal, it's like, am I a little bit hungry? It's like, sure, but like I've done fasting a lot, so
yeah.
It's just if I feel hungry, I'm like, I'm not dying. So,
well, that's the thing. It's like, well, one, it's a discipline thing, and two, it's something you're used to. Like, it's not necessarily bad to do some sort of fasting. It's just that everyone tries. They've never done it before, and then they're like, a marketer tells them to fast for 14 hours, eat within a 2-hour window, and then they can't do it for more than 2 days. It's like, yeah, because they never did it before.
Yeah, that's way too big of a jump. Yeah, you probably haven't been longer than 12 to 14 hours. And that's because you missed breakfast or skipped it by accident and you slept in, something like that. Whereas, in this case, it's more of I eat almost every 4 hours between 3 and 5 hours, but mostly 4. And it's just that's just how I live my lifestyle. Like that's because I have that lifestyle. So
Yeah.
it's
Do you think that meal time, not I wouldn't say meal timing as much as just spacing out of meals plays a big role in someone trying to gain weight that's struggling to, like, at least paying attention to when they're eating?
yeah. I mean, the first thing is always awareness. So in the beginning of this episode, we said to start tracking right away as
Yeah.
kind of like the precursor to all this. So definitely see how many meals you are eating, or when, how many meals, what you're eating in those meals. And then once you kind of find out, one of the easiest ways is to just start adding these snacks, micro meals. And this is where it really compounds when you do the tips like adding the liquid calories, like the orange juice, where you do just eat that one, like just eat one chip at this hour.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be ravenous, literally trying to grab things that you can eat right in front of you or taking off your coworker's head just because you want to make sure that you get that food in. But
Yeah.
you want to elicit hunger by in between meals trying to add something into your mouth that tastes really good. So it can be healthy, it can be unhealthy. I'm just saying, like, we obviously always say whole foods first, but in this case, a chip will really, really spark that hunger. Have just one Dorito. I dare you. It's not possible. I literally can't do it myself.
That's true. That is true.
I can't do it. I think I'm pretty disciplined with my food. If I have one Dorito, I want like 25 more bags, not
Yeah.
one, not chips.
Also, I think heavy lifting will prompt hunger. Maybe not, like, I think there's the phenomenon where, like, right after you lift, you're not hungry. That
That's
happens
me,
to
yeah.
me. Yeah, that happens to me too. But I would say that overall, across the day, like, let's say you lift in the morning and you usually just would skip breakfast anyways, and maybe even lunch. Like, a lot of these guys barely eat at all. So, you lift in the morning, super heavy compound movements. It's like by the middle of the day, if you're not hungry at all, like, I don't know, you're not human then. Like, it's going to prompt hunger.
Yeah, eventually. A lot of times, there definitely is a lot of physiological stuff going on, but basically, you have to build a habit, and then these are the tips to build habits, and these are all super easy to do.
Yeah.
Hence why we give these tips to you. So make sure you take some of these tips and implement them right away, so you start seeing the results that you want. Because I know for a fact, if you are the skinny guy that's not able to put on muscle, you haven't even been to the gym, or even if you have, that you need to be able to put on size by eating more food. You literally cannot add more building blocks into your size without units coming in. It is the energy. It is literally energy coming into your body to be able to build on more size. Yes, you're able to lift and utilize energy that you have, but understand you still need outside resources to build the foundation on. So please eat your food.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. I totally agree with Coach Chris. He summed it up perfectly. You don't have to use every single strategy that we talked about all in one go. Take 1 to 3 of them, combine them if you'd like, and I guarantee you'll get better results that way. If you got value from this episode and want to continue to receive value, subscribe to this podcast and follow us on our IG handles. I'm at Benji_Tucker19, and you are?
I'm Coach_Chris Lee.
Until next time.